For today's brief rumination, I'd like to look at this coming Sunday's reading, which is from Genesis 29. And I'm looking at it for a somewhat different reason from other weeks' midweek moments. Several times in recent weeks, there's been such an embarrassment of riches in the several lectionary readings that I know I would spread things too thin in Sunday's sermon if I attempted to focus on more than one reading. On those weeks, I've been happy to talk about the reading that won't get top billing on Sunday, midweek. This is not one of those weeks. It was clear to me by Monday morning as I met on Zoom with several clergy colleagues and we looked at what we've been thinking of doing with the upcoming week's preaching, that this week's passage from the Hebrew Scriptures was not part of an embarrassment of riches. Rather, it was an embarrassment. Let me explain. I find it a very uncomfortable incident, this latest episode in Keeping Up with the Patriarchs. The minute version is this. Jacob, having left his parents Isaac and Rebekah and twin Esau after having extracted the firstborn's birthright from his brother and tricked Isaac into giving him the blessing, has fled for his life and hopefully a job and a wife to his uncle Laban's in a distant land. As it happens, Laban's daughter Rachel catches Jacob's eye and his heart, and when Laban asks Jacob what his salary requirements are, Jacob suggests that Rachel be given to him for 7 years' labor. His uncle is fine with this, and 7 short years later throws a fine wedding banquet, at the end of which he hands over his daughter the bride, and the next morning Jacob awakes by his wife, who is not Rachel, but her older sister, Leah. Jacob points out this apparent breach of contract to his uncle, who indicates that local custom dictates that the older daughter gets married before the younger sister, a custom he apparently did not make clear to Jacob at the start. A new plan is devised. Jacob will keep Leah and work for Laban 7 more years to get Rachel as well, thus presumably satisfying everyone. Everyone except for maybe hypersensitive 21st century preachers who get kind of uncomfortable with the idea of a whole class of people, in this case women, but you could fill in the blank with lots of others, race, religion, country of origin, ability, being treated as objects to be bartered, bought, owned. The otherwise delicious irony of seeing Jacob the trickster being tricked by his uncle turns sour on the tongue at the prospect of the dehumanizing commerce in real lives. Just retelling the story makes me queasy enough. I don't think I'd have the stomach to preach on it. And though I don't intend to preach on Genesis 29 this Sunday, some of the issues it raises for me are important for us all to face. How do you distinguish family or regional or national customs from moral and ethical absolute standards? How do you discern which customs are timelessly valuable from those that are historical relics? Speaking of which, how do you decide which historical relics to display prominently and publicly? And how do you talk about these and other hot-button issues sanely and gracefully and non-defensively, especially when the emotional temperature of society is pretty close to the thermometer's July reading? James Baldwin, the writer and activist, wrote that not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. As individuals, a church, and a nation, we have daily opportunities to face things that need to be changed. In the words of the United Methodist Church's baptismal covenant, to accept the freedom and power God gives you to resist evil, injustice, and oppression in whatever forms they present themselves. God be with you till we meet again.